Hello, and welcome to the Star Wars half hour.
Right here.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Rich Alvarez channel.
Hello!
I'm Rich Alvarez.
I'm not! I'm D-Rock.
And yeah, this is our first. It's funny because I want to say it's our first Star Wars hour on the Rich Alvarez channel, but it's not.
It is not.
We started on the Rich Alvarez channel.
Yes.
Then we went to the Star Wars Network.
And now we're back.
And now we've come full circle because problems.
It's the circle of don't have the rights to that song.
So anyways, yeah, so we've got a lot of awesome Star Wars news to cover today, and then we're going to spend the last 5 to 10 minutes answering questions that you guys asked in the comment section of the last video that was on the Star Wars Network. And at the end of this video, we will ask a new question.
Yes.
You will write your answers in the comment section below,
Now
as
you're
well as
picking
giving
up
the
on
video a thumbs up. And then we will
Thumbs
take
up.
our top, as always, or it's going to be always, we will take our top 10 favorite comments and answer them next week.
Yay!
So, D-Rock, I can do exactly what you're doing now, and why don't you get us started on the news right
Yay,
now?
Richard, I will. All right.
He read the news
I
today.
read
Oh, boy.
Yes. So I will start with the lighter news as Rich gets us set up over here. With regards to money, I've clearly wrote in a $sign. There was a little sneak peek on what's coming next
We only
as far as
had
the
8
news
comments.
goes. That's all right. We will read them all. So in financial news in Star Wars universe, we have the Avengers beating The Force Awakens for opening day. They did a cute little thing online if you want to go see it about passing the baton. It was basically Rey's hand handing the lightsaber to Iron Man, which is a big kind of Hollywood only thing that you only hear about when big shows pass each other up like this. So go look that up if you want to see it. That's all you need to know, is that the Avengers did really well, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. Next up on the financial news, which is really interesting because in other news, Amazon hiked their yearly renewal subscription. If you haven't seen that yet, that's going to be a bit of a deal. But that being said, they're also making some stuff exclusives. And in this case, which I ran across, Star Wars DVDs and Blu-rays are going to be exclusively only available to purchase if you are a Prime member, which at this point, I don't really know many people who don't have access to a Prime membership, but it's very odd that that's an exclusive. I don't know how Amazon managed to write that.
No, that doesn't mean you won't be able to buy those DVDs anywhere.
Correct.
Like, you can still buy them at Best Buy, but if you're going to buy them on Amazon,
yes,
you have to be a Prime member to buy them on Amazon, which I think is really weird and not intuitive.
I don't know why they would do that. But with that being said, we'll move on to a little bit extra news. This is Disney-specific news for the parks. Disney has actually verbalized that all these changes you're seeing with like the additional Star Wars Day, which if you didn't see that on your Facebook feed, you don't have Facebook, because it was all over the place, to the new types of food that are coming up in the upcoming release of Star Wars Land. Disney has actually verbalized that they're going to be moving to a Star Wars and food focus on their parks. They're going to make sure the Disneyland park provides you with better food, and that there's a lot more Star Wars themed events going on in like Tomorrowland and what will eventually be the Star Wars Land.
So what you're saying is all of Disneyland will be Star Wars
correct,
land.
Because as they put it, they need to reach us millennials.
Oh,
yes. So that was it on that front, which was the slow news for the day. Did you want to get into the bunch of conspiracies, or do you want me to? Actually, you know what? I'll keep capping off this last little bit, and then I'm going to let Rich take over because he's got a lot of conspiracies.
Oh, boy, do I.
All the time. So one of the things we've got going this week as far as, things we find out in the Solo film that they've told us already, is how Chewbacca got his nickname, which I don't know if anybody ever asked that question, but boy, are they going to answer
Boy,
it.
did I not need to know the answer to that question.
Well, the answer to that is simple, and it's via a quote from some of the footage that was released. It says, Han says, "You're going to need a nickname because I ain't saying that every time." So there it is. That's how he got his name Chewie, which
That's
we could have all guessed anyways.
Why is it so hard to say Chewbacca? It took almost 200 years for someone to call Chewbacca Chewie. Jeez. This movie. All right.
Okay. Conspiracy time, and we're gonna lead off with what's coming up next, which is the episode 9, because there's not a lot of Solo news. That was the only bit of Solo news. John Boyega. What do you got for us, Rich?
So yeah, John Boyega was being interviewed, and it was for some other event he was doing, of course. And just like any actor who's involved in Star Wars, doesn't matter what you do for the rest of your life, when you're doing an interview, someone's going to ask you a Star Wars question. So, they asked him like how he was preparing for Episode 9. He's like, well, yeah, I can't wait to do my scenes. We're just waiting for my hair to grow out. And then he was like, oh, he kind of did a a double take.
What?
So, as you all know, Episode 8 took place like
His hair, Rich.
Yes, his hair. Episode 8 took place right after The Force Awakens, and a lot of people were assuming that Episode 9 might just take place right after Episode 8, but this pseudo sort of confirms that it's going to have a classic Star Wars time jump, because, I mean, if Finn's going to have, like, longer hair that's, like, because that's, movie magic. It's like, oh, his hair grew, like, 3 months worth of hair growth. It must have been 4 years.
Yeah, because that's what we think. We assume they're not getting a haircut.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do in movies. It's like, oh my god, he's got longer hair. It's been forever.
So does that mean that because I have a beard now, we've been doing this show forever?
D-Rock, you've been in prison for 10 years.
Yeah. Welcome to Movie Magic.
No, it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, isn't real life hair growth fun, kids?
so given that time, the time gap that's apparently now being projected because of his hair growth between 8 and 9, how long do you think it'll have been? Where do you think they're going to put it? Is it going to be like 5 years?
Yeah, I'm thinking like 2 or 3 years.
You think 2 or 3 years?
Star Wars, I mean, like, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi never said how far from each other that they were.
Yeah.
But we kind of assumed it'd been about a couple years, like between 4 and 5, and
Yep.
I'm getting a phone call that I will not answer.
That's Star Wars sounds.
Yeah, it'll probably be about 2 or 3 years.
Perfect.
Do you think that I kind of feel like he did that on purpose, though. Like, it's one of those classic John Boyega things where... he was, kind of, he let loose just a little bit,
Yeah, well, I think that just goes with when you're running the press junket, like, they tell you not to say anything that might lead to anything that isn't sanctioned by the company. They don't want you to talk about or hint at or anything, right? Which is great and all. But at the same time, like, that might have just been them saying, don't talk about your hair.
Yeah.
Because of some other spoiler, but it's going to be... You can't go the way Episode 8 ended. You cannot take The Last Jedi the way it ended and move us forward on the timeline to a reasonable place where the Resistance can still put up a fight without having some type of year gap that's going to be explained largely through a narrative.
Yeah, because it'll be so much easier for the movie to go on if it's like, yeah, in the last couple of years, we've built up our defenses, we've joined with this planet, this planet, this planet. Look, we have a new army of 5,000 people strong.
Look at us.
Because nobody wants to watch a movie of like 30 people trying to recruit an army.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be a big time gap. I think that was pretty obvious,
and we had some continuity issues, just to kind of go back with, like, Battlefront 2, the way that scene ends in Battlefront 2, and it was released after Crate. Am I getting the planet wrong? The final one.
Crate is the end of episode 8.
Yeah. Well, if you watch the end of those, if you watch the end of your team losing, if you're the Rebels or the Resistance on Battlefront 2, you leave as the Falcon and a bunch of other ships. But I don't know why I've been so hung up on this, but in episode 8, it's just the Falcon.
Yeah, I think there's some discrepancy there that EA wasn't aware of or DICE wasn't aware of. So, but I would consider the movie,
I would hope.
And since there's going to be a time gap, we'll never really know.
But then that begs to differ. That begs to differ. They don't have a current strong standing force. Didn't she say to send out a message to the whatever? Like, didn't Leia tell Luke towards the end to send a message? Weren't they sending a message to all the outer planets that were like Resistance that they knew of anybody else?
Oh yeah.
Like,
so
the
last
ditch effort
like,
for a message.
Other people assumably will join them afterwards.
Yeah, which would make sense. But in order to get that all there, that's not going to happen in another month.
No, of course not. No. So yeah, there is a comic in the timeline already that takes place within that month after The Last Jedi. So we know that this movie is at least not going to take place in that month. I'm gonna bet. I put my money on 2 years after episode 8.
That's fair. I don't know if I would argue against that.
Yeah.
That's probably fair.
What we got next, D-Rock?
We will continue it with episode 9, which you can talk a little bit more about to give our fans some reference. Luke's wife is coming back? What?
Okay, so this is actually a really funny, movies put out casting calls, of course, right before they start. Oh, and in some cases, well, of course, if there's big stars involved, like, now they're big stars, things are really Pojam, and those guys are already obviously on board. Yeah. But when they do smaller roles, sometimes they put out a casting call just like a month or so before a film begins. And so that's all this is that there's a casting, the casting call is out, and they're looking to cast a character who, all it says in the casting call is that they're looking for a woman who's between 40 to 50 years old, whose name is Mara. They didn't say Mara Jade. It doesn't say it's Luke's wife. It doesn't say it's Rey's mother. It doesn't say any of that.
But what if it is, Rich? What if it is?
But so of course fans, got a hold of this leaked casting call, and they're like, "Oh, a woman between 40 and 50, and her name is Mara. Oh, there can only be one person in the Star Wars universe named Mara, and that's Mara Jade."
Yeah.
If it, okay, once again, my money is on this just being a random character, not related to Mara Jade and not Luke's wife, not Rey's mom. And even if it was Mara Jade, that doesn't mean she's Rey's mom.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, guys. So, okay, if it's a random character, which I think it is, that's fine. It's just like, if it was Mara Jade, they've got so much to answer for, because it's like Mara Jade was so important in the comics, and to bring her in now, and like, if it was gonna be Mara, they're like, oh yeah, she was Luke's assistant at his new temple, and they had a little bit of a fling, and then maybe she secretly had Rey and didn't tell Luke or something.
Stork showed up and delivered
Rey.
Rey.
Yeah, the stork. No, but
the Force stork.
To bring in Mara Jade now and just to kind of like diminish her to Luke's helper at the temple, or anything that isn't exactly what she was in the original expanded universe, would ruin the character for me.
That would be upsetting.
I would rather just not have Mara Jade.
Well, she's not canon right now.
Well,
right?
She's not canon.
Yeah,
no.
She's not canon in the Disney universe, so they could.
But they'd have to completely change her to fit her in now.
But they can put Mara as anybody. And 40 to 50 wouldn't fit Luke's wife. Maybe it's a casting call for like a flashback?
No, 40. She would be about 40, 50.
That's not how old Luke was.
Well, she is about 15 years younger than him.
Oh,
yeah, because he's like,
it's Mara Jade.
Because by the time the Return of the Jedi ends, and it's been a couple years, he's like 30, I want to say, and she's like 20 when they meet. She's like 10 to 15 years younger. So it would.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I see why they're running with it. I get it. But I agree, that would be, with what they're doing in the Solo film and like not explaining a whole lot, and they're expecting it to be a buddy film, and now it's turning into, who knows what we're going to get.
It's just,
but I doubt they would do that.
I really hate to be that guy. But
yeah, I'd be that guy.
I just like,
That's why
I feel
you're here, because I'm the other guy.
But it's like, I feel like I'm going to be upset no matter what, because unless I get the Mara Jade I remember loving in the novels and comics, I'm going to be upset, and there's just no way they can fit that version of her in this new timeline.
Well, I would argue is it stopped them so far.
Yeah, no. So I guess we'll see what we see.
They killed Admiral Akbar with an ion blast and had one line about it, despite him being a bigger player and a longer resistance fighter than anyone else we'd seen in the film.
So just in case you guys don't know who Mara Jade was, in the original canon, which is now Legends, Mara Jade was a secret apprentice of Palpatine, and then after Return of the Jedi, she was still enemies with Luke, but eventually he turned her to the good side and she became his wife and yada yada. And
it's a killer story.
And it was great, but that doesn't really work anymore. Anyways, yeah, so there's a woman being cast, her name is Mara, and it's a woman who's 40 to 50 years old. We'll find out if that's Mara Jade or if it's just some chick named Mara.
Or it's not, and it stands for Manic After Robot.
Oh yeah, it was all caps. It was like Mara.
Maybe it's for a droid. Maybe somebody's voicing a droid.
Micro automaton.
Robot. Autonomous. More automatons. Okay, well, crap. We beat that with a dead horse. We beat that topic with a dead horse. That's just
okay. Next topic.
All right, so next topic, and kind of the last news for this week, because they're kind of going quiet on important bits this week, like leading up to the inevitable release of probably the tickets.
I got a rubber face.
Gotta do the So what we're gonna end up seeing is likely this type of news being released until the tickets go on sale. Then we're gonna see another huge release of probably Solo spoiler, little behind the scenes stuff.
Let me guys know if you are able to purchase Solo tickets, because my Fandango app still says that I can't.
Yeah,
in my area, but I think that's everywhere.
I mean, yeah, there's been no indication that they've gone on sale. I've heard nothing yet, and I'm
They'll
sure
probably be like what they usually do with their one final teaser, and then
that's so that's when we'll start getting the news to pick back up. I guarantee it. Okay, so last little bit of news we had this week, which is actually kind of bigger news than anything else we've gotten. There's going to be a new Star Wars animated series.
Yes.
Basically a direct, not sequel, but in as far as what they're making, this is going to be what is followed Star Wars Rebels.
Well, no. But
not in the timeline, but in regards to what they're releasing. So it's going to be called Star Wars Resistance. It's a Lucasfilm animated series, not the 3D that they've been doing, but rather kind of like a cartoon anime style, kind of like the first Clone Wars was.
That Cartoon Network Clone Wars. That, if anybody remembers those, like the mini series of anime Clone Wars that were kind of like done by the Samurai Jack guy,
which I thought was.
And then they had the Clone Wars of
the one we know,
That's all the seasons, which was kind of a 3D marionette style, and then Rebels, which is just kind of a more traditional 3D style. Yeah. But and the way that Star Wars Rebels ended, spoilers, we thought that Ahsoka and
major spoilers, because I haven't seen it yet, but I run a show, so I've had the whole thing ruined.
My assumption was that the next show that Dave Filoni was going to do was going to follow Sabine and Ahsoka's search for Ezra, and this has nothing to do with that. This show takes place right before The Force Awakens and follows Poe Dameron and a new character. I can't remember the new character's name.
I know that.
And also, like, Captain Phasma will be in it.
Yes.
And there was no mention of Ahsoka and Sabine at all. But I'm going to assume, because Rebels ended, that epilogue at the end of Rebels took place after Return of the Jedi. This is like 30 years after that. I'm going to assume that the whole Ahsoka and Sabine thing has already been resolved by this point, and they're saving that Sabine and Ahsoka thing for later, maybe another 3D show later down the road, and you just wanted to do a traditional animated show for now.
Is it traditional animated
/ anime,
but it's probably easier to do than the full 3D.
Probably,
I would argue, but I'm not an animator.
So just to credit D-Rock here, but also discredit him.
Oh no!
It is following Rebels.
To neutral D. Rockefeller here. All right, I'm very neutral.
It is following Rebels in the fact that this is the next animated show by Dave Filoni, but it is not following Rebels in the idea that it follows none of those characters.
Yes. But I gotta give them the characters' names. You skipped right over that.
Okay.
So a little bit on the characters that's going to be in this one, and I know Rich is upset because he thought the Dave Filoni continuance would be the Ahsoka story.
It still will. Probably.
It still probably will.
Someday.
He said he wants to do something with it, and maybe he'll do it in this, and that'll all he'd get. But this is what he's up to next. It follows the story. It's the period leading right before The Force Awakens, and it follows the story of, I'm going to butcher this beyond belief, but it is Kazuda Xiono. So I believe that's Kazuda Xiono.
We'll find out when the show happens.
Ixiono, which you never know how they're going to pronounce this stuff. And he's a young pilot recruited by the Rebels to basically be a spy for the Resistance within the Empire, or the First Order. It will have characters, like you said, like Poe Dameron and BB-8, stuff like that. So it's going to bring a lot of the ones we had, or the ones we were introduced to in The Force Awakens. Right. So that will be extremely interesting to see, and I'm actually excited for them to kind of go back to that animated series, because if you haven't seen it yet, it doesn't add anything to your story or your Star Wars knowledge, but I would argue the Samurai Jack creator who did those Cartoon Network Star Wars shorts, it looked really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed those quite a bit.
It was,
sadly, they're non-canon now.
I know, which is upsetting, so go ahead and watch them. You're not going to spoil anything. Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen anything beyond that promo picture for this.
Yeah.
So I don't know to what degree of anime it looks like. I would be happy with anything ranging from Naruto to
that one fan made one we saw with.
Oh yeah, there is a fan made Star Wars anime that is pretty cool. I can't remember what it's called though.
If you haven't seen it yet, go just look up Star Wars fan made anime. It will pop up. It's like the first one. It's got like Darth Vader as a samurai.
But I'm assuming that this is going to be really high budget and be really good. I just don't think that this is. I think that we will someday, maybe in a couple years, see the actual 3D sequel to Rebels with Ahsoka and Sabine. We'll see.
Maybe they'll make that the live action. Who knows?
That'd
Who
be
knows
crazy.
at this point? That would be nuts. But they are going to do that. They've already confirmed it. It's supposed to be coming.
Yeah.
But it should be the older story. I think we've talked about this before. It should be an origin story.
All right, guys, that's all the Star Wars news for this week. Now we're going to answer your questions from last week. Stick around because some of these are interesting.
Yes.
So, Super Tunnel Boy
Thanks, Tunnel Boy.
said, do either of you think that Tam Pulsa will do anything important or just be a cameo? And Tam Pulsa is this, background character, bounty hunter of Star Wars. And, I think he's talking about in Solo.
Yeah.
Generally, these kinds of things don't end up being very big characters.
No.
Like, in Phantom Menace, George actually put in, oh god, what's her name? The chick that's mostly bald with like the little braid.
I
can't remember.
That's right.
But like that's all that these characters end up being. He'll be in the background, and so fans will be like, "Oh my god,
I saw him!"
But
It'll be an Easter egg.
That'll be it. If he says any dialogue at all, awesome, but probably not.
No.
Yeah, so that's probably what that is.
Yeah, I think he'll be in it. There's almost no way he won't be because they love them some Easter eggs. So, let's do Hockey Song's question. Who is always got a good question? Always. Thank you, Hockey Song. Have you guys ever tried and found a way to be in a Star Wars or Marvel film as an extra? I missed an opportunity because I was working to be in a Star Wars film, or not a Star Wars film, to be in the new Transformers.
Oh yeah,
that they were filming near my work, and I could have just shown up, but I was working, and you don't do that while you're working. You pay to work.
So the funny thing is, guys, I've actually been an extra in some commercials and some movies, like from movies you've probably never heard of, because we live in California, Northern California, so
which is right next to Hollywood.
Right next to it. No, we're Northern California.
We'll see if that video ever gets released.
But generally what happens is, a lot of people don't understand how you get to be an extra in a movie, because unless you're like a movie star or an actor who's made it into Hollywood, and you have like a agent that helps you get a role in a movie, like an actual talking role to like a major character, then the way that extras works generally is depending on what area you live in. So like we live in the Sacramento area, and there's a couple of different acting agencies that you can sign up with and pay like a monthly due. It's stupid. You have to pay them. And then you get to, give them your headshot and your resume, so they kind of get a profile on you. And so that way when a movie, it's like, let's say the next Avenger movie, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do like a couple of days in Sacramento because we really want this like old looking street. Then they'll call this agency and they'll be like, okay, we need like 30.
And the agency will be like, so you need a guy who kind of looks like Mario to be in the background of one of your Marvel things as an Easter egg, right? I got him, Rich Alvarez.
Yeah, kind of. No, but they'll generally be like, we need like 30 to 40 passerbys. Can you find us some like towny looking people? And then the agency will be like, okay. So these agencies generally have like thousands of people, and then they'll kind of just randomly choose like 30 to 40 people. So like I was in like a B budget horror movie. I was on this like science fiction show, and generally they're like, yeah, we need like a small mid-20s, because I was in my mid-20s back then, not anymore. We need like a small mid-20s Hispanic looking dude to stand in the back of this like chula bar or something, so like that's typically how it works. So it's like you can't just ask to be in a Marvel movie or ask to be in a Star Wars movie. If you are part of a modeling or acting agency and you are the type of person they're looking for, then they will sadly call you if they need you. Generally, it's not how it works. And
we can't ask yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I actually never left that agency. They just haven't called me in about 5 years. So that's like, I think it's just there are so many people that are with them now, and my headshots are like out of date. I think if you want to keep, you have to like send them in every couple of years or something.
That makes sense.
I don't look how I did when I was 24. Trust me.
Yeah, none of us do.
This guy looks good. Oh wait, he's 30 now.
So, killer question, Hockey Song, and we will go back, and if we have time, and we'll talk to everybody's just comments. Let's go ahead and look at Hail Hydra,
who's got a lengthy comment.
I enjoy this. Do you want to read it?
I'll read it. Hail Hydra says, I'll be looking forward to the weekly content. This is referring to like everything.
That's us.
But if some things will take more time, feel free to take all the time you need. Oh, thank you, Hail Hydra. Regardless, I'll be looking forward to it. As for my solo question, I hope I can think of a decent one, because I haven't been focused on the solo movie. Not because I don't think it will turn out well, or even because I'm not too interested in it, but more because I've been focused on other things, such as Infinity War.
Infinity War. I can't wait to see Infinity War this weekend.
Now for my question. I guess I should have just skipped to this part. What is your opinion on Paul Bettany being in the movie? I assume he's going to be a villain or antagonist, because when I first saw him on a poster promotional artwork, I could have sworn I knew him from somewhere. I actually mistook him for Benedict Cumberbatch at first. What are your thoughts on Paul Bettany in Star Wars movie? Well, I would never forget.
Know.
Yeah, we've already talked about this.
This was last week. Yes.
But yeah, Paul Bettany, he's taking over. It was actually a different person in that role, but then they couldn't make the reshoots.
Yes.
So Ron Howard asked Paul Bettany, who was at the next soundstage over doing, Infinity War. He's like, hey, get over here. And he took over this small role. I don't think it's going to be... I know you thought it might even be a central antagonist.
He's going to be the central antagonist. Okay. That is my...
He may end up being the central antagonist, but he only was on set for like 3 or 4 days. So I think that even if he is, it'll be it's 2 or 3 scenes.
Well, okay. By central antagonist, I mean he's going to be a betrayer. He's going to do something kind of formative to Han Solo's character, which we're going to see. But
yeah, I'm glad that he's going to be in it. I think that his career kind of, for a minute there, kind of took a turn for the worse. And then, and then he was like just the voice of Jarvis. And luckily... luckily they were like, no, Jarvis turns into Vision, and he got to be Vision,
which is great
because
Paul Bettany is good.
It's not exactly the way that Vision comes about in the comics, so I'm glad that they went that way so that Paul Bettany could be Vision. Because I love Paul Bettany. I loved him in A Knight's Tale, and I loved him in that one tennis movie I can't think of the name of right now, but Paul Bettany's a great actor, and I'm glad that like the Vision thing has kind of helped him come back into the spotlight, and now we're going to be seeing him in Star Wars, and he's going to be in some other stuff too. Love Paul Bettany, great actor. He was transcendent in Infinity War. That's all I can say. I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, don't do that.
But it was so good.
I've done so good. Did you cry?
A little bit, yes.
Oh no, I'm not gonna cry. No. That's why I save all my emotions for the dark, alone with me and my pillow.
I did not put up a review for Infinity War yet because I didn't want you to have to like, oh, but Rich made it. I have to watch it.
I'll be like, watch. No. I'll sit there and just scream. You know what? You could with Garrett. Has he seen it yet?
Yeah, no, I don't.
If he hasn't seen it, I'll put myself to work and I'll see it Saturday.
Thank you for your comment, Fabian, but I don't think you actually asked a question about Solo.
But we have 3 more minutes, so you guys win, and this is going to be a little bit of a treat for you guys for commenting on it, and we're encouraging you guys who are watching this now to leave us some great comments for next week.
There's one more question.
Ask the question.
Okay, Philip Bayer says Felicity Jones, who is Jyn Erso in Rogue One, has a contract for several movies, because we were talking about how Alden Ehrenreich has a contract for two more solo movies. Yeah. But Jyn died in Rogue One, so it's probably just a case that they don't want them to come back or have to negotiate. Like, basically what he's trying to say is like we might actually see Jyn Erso maybe even in this Solo movie because she would be alive, but she'd be way younger though.
But this is why they did that, and he has a great point. Is rather than try to renegotiate a contract with a no name as far as his introduction and make sure and like try to get him back, which is what happened with Robert Downey Jr. And he made the right decision, said, all right, I'll do this first one. Then they decided, oh, we're going to do all this other stuff. And he said, fine, I'm Iron Man now, but I'm not signing more than one contract at a time, which is how he got all that money. So Disney, taking a good lesson from that, is signing these people on for multiple film contracts that aren't even written. I doubt they even thought they would do 2 more. Just in case. I especially think, and I think we talked about this last week too, but not on the Rich Albert channel. Ooh. I especially think now that he's done. And maybe they'll be like, well, we got a contract, so maybe we'll have a scene of him in the Obi-Wan movie somehow. I don't know. Maybe. They can do whatever they want, but I don't think they're going to make a direct sequel to this Solo movie. Okay, so thank you everyone who asked us a question last week. Yes. There wasn't quite 10, but there could be next time. So here's what's going to happen. I'm about to ask you a question. Oh, no. And then I'm going to take our top 10 favorite of them and answer them at the end of next week's episode. We're going to do this every week, guys. Yes. We're going to ask you a question, and then we'll tell us what you, or no, they can tell us what they think in the comments. We'll comment back when we can if you write something good or have a good thought on your question, and then you ask us a question so we can do it at the end. I think that's what you're trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I mean, that was basically it. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to answer it in the comments below. There it is. And then I will say them next week. He will say the words. So, why it's so complicated? We got a case of the afternoon. All right, so what's your question? Okay, so here's my question this week. I'm ready. I'm on pins and needles. Do you think that we need a break between episodes 9 and episodes 10? Do you think
that there should be like a 5 to 10 year gap of no Star Wars? Do you think that it should be spin-offs only? Do you think that so what I'm really asking is, do you think that we need like, oh, here's episode 9 and then 2 years later here's episode 10? I personally would like to see kind of a gap, like a 5-year, at least a 5-year gap between episodes 9 and 10, and then maybe not even any spin-off films. So let me know what you guys want. Do you want a hiatus to kind of get a breather so that way it doesn't feel like Star Wars is less significant than it was?
That's a good point.
You know, because maybe some of you feel, I don't personally quite feel like this, but
well,
some of you
we're
feel
talk about that next
like,
week.
you know, they might be milking it a little bit or whatever. So let me know. Do you think that Star Wars should take a break? Do you think that they should just go right into the next set of the Ahsoka trilogy? Do you think that they should just do spin-offs forever? Basically what I'm asking is, what do you think the fate of the Star Wars series is? What do you think they should do?
Go ahead. Share it in the comments and go ahead and ask us a question at the end of your comment, or just ask us a question alone, and we will answer the best ones next week. Thank you guys for watching the Star Wars Half Hour, and have a great night, you guys. Bye! Bye.